Welcome to Bold's UniversalConnector. This video is part 2, data mapping. The purpose of this video is to break down what data mapping is, describe the 4 data mapping types, and show how to create a data map for a signal. Data mapping, also known as mapping, is taking a signal that has arrived through one of the connectors, breaking it apart according to a defined method, and then assigning the individual fields to a field that is part of an alarm signal in Manitou. I recommend, if you haven't done so already, viewing our UniversalConnector overview video and part 1, setting up connectors. The first thing to decide in creating the data mapping for a signal is what the mapping type is. There are 4 different mapping types to choose from. Separator. Separator type is a signal that uses a single character to separate the fields within the signal. For example, if a signal is received that contains the transmitter ID, the event code, the area, and the zone, all separated by a comma, the comma would be selected as the separator. Position. Position type is a signal that uses the position and length to divide up a signal. That signal would look something like this. To break it apart, we would have to know the transmitter ID starts at character 1 and is 5 characters long. The event code starts at character 6 and is 2 characters long. The area starts at character 8 and is 1 long. The zone starts at character 9 and is 1 long. For this method to work, all signals have to be formatted the same way. A 6-character transmitter ID is going to break the formatting in this example. Label separator. Label separator type is a signal that has a label, then a data value, then a separator. This signal might look something like this. The character transmitter ID is the label. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the data. Colon is the separator. Carriage return is the secondary separator. XML/JSON. XML and JSON signals use a standard XML and JSON format and could look something like this. We will break down the XML and JSON signals in later how-to videos. To get started, you will first need to log in to your Bold Media Gateway. Locate the data mapping icon in the navigation bar. It is located under UniversalConnector. Once you click on it, it will prompt you to type in your Media Gateway specific password. Here is where we will create our data map within the Formatting tab. We will discuss pre-processing in later videos. To create a data map, we need to click Add up at the top and give our data map a name. For this video, we're going to use an email as our example, so I will name this data map Email Demo. Click OK when finished. We need to select our mapping type. Click the drop-down arrow to display your options. I'm going to select Separator. Next, we will determine the separator that is being used here in the Separator field. Click the drop-down arrow to view your choices. This field is only required when using the separator and label separator types. You can see in our example that our separator is a comma. In the signal type field, you will see that there are 3 options: signal, GPS signal, and telemetry. Our example is a regular signal, so I will select signal. Event type is where you can specify the event type attribute of a signal tag. Here we have SIA, which are any standard SIA codes, such as BA, BR, FA, etc. These codes are tied directly to the event type field in Manitou. CID are any standard contact ID codes, like E101, R101, and E103, etc. And SYS, which are Manitou standard system codes. Let's choose SYS for this example. Depending on the connector, a signal can have multiple parts. For example, our email has a subject and a body. Emails can also have attachments and attachment file names. All of these pieces of information may contain data that can be decoded within the data mapping process. Here in the signal part box is where we will specify what can be processed and in what order. Our example email has the transmitter ID in the subject, then the event, area, zone, and point ID in the body. We will need to check Add Subject to Start of Final Signal and Add Current Message Body to Final Signal. This will create a signal that looks like this. If we wanted to change the order of the data, all we have to do is click on the line we want to move and use the up and down arrows to move the order. Now our signal would look like this. Note: one item in the Signal Parts box has to be selected. If your email happens to have extra data on the end, for example a signature, and it does not need to be part of the signal, then you would check the Combine Excess Data into Last Field option. Let's move on to the mapping fields. Here we have the position field. The position field is numeric and simply specifies the order of the fields. If we look back at our email, we will see that we have 5 fields: transmitter ID, event code, area, zone, and point ID. We start with the first position and work our way down. Click the cursor into the position field and type the number 1. Next we have the operation. Click the drop-down arrow to view your options. In our later videos, we will discuss and create data maps using some of these operations options, but for now, we're going to select Mapped Field. Mapped will simply take the data that is being supplied by the signal. Now let's move on to the field. The field section is where we will define the specific data for this position. Click the drop-down arrow to view your options. Our first position is the transmitter ID. I will finish setting up the remaining positions the same way. Once you have your mapping field set up, you can open up Test Studio to send in your test signal. Here's what this signal would look like in Manitou. This concludes part 2 of the Universal Connector, creating a data map. You can find our upcoming videos at boldgroup.com. Just scroll to the bottom of the page for a quick access to our YouTube page. For more information, contact your account executive today at sales@boldgroup.com.